everybody, welcome back to the channel and John's Briefs here with Tim Forshey, again, criminal defense attorney extraordinaire, former judge pro tem, Arizona Ranger, firearms instructor, and prolific signer off on Arizona CCW. You should get, if you need one, Arizona CCW is his thing. So links in the description on that if you need one of those, resident or non-resident. Had a defensive gun use in Mississippi. However, to the media, that defender said he didn't mean to shoot him and that he whopped him on the head with his gun and the gun went off and it shot him and he was sad the guy died. And I want to ask the attorney about that statement.
Firearms Legal Protection is who I trust to help me after a use of force incident. If you're a Firearms Legal Protection member, I will also be on your team as a consulting expert, and you can attend our monthly active self-protection training seminars for free. Check out all they offer to their members at the link below.
So first, let's start with just making a statement to the media in general. You have any client that comes into your office and says, hey, I had to shoot a guy, or I shot a guy for whatever reason. And they say, an ABC7 has called me and asked me to give a statement. What's your advice, counselor?
I mean, I think there's two kinds, well, way more than two, but there's two, with regard to this topic, I think there's two kinds of lawyers. There's the lawyer who loves it. There's the lawyer who loves being on TV, right? If you can get my soundbite on the courthouse steps, hey, I like going home and sitting there with my kids during dinner and watting Daddy on TV.
Daddy's on
That's
TV.
kind of cool.
Mommy's on TV.
Also, great for business.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's a well-known criminal defense attorney. You know, I've seen him on TV before, blah, blah, blah. And then there's lawyers like me that have absolutely zero desire to ever do that. I've had so many cases where the media calls me and they go, yeah, could you please call us back? We'd like your comment. I don't call them back. I never return the call, not once, never will. And because even if they catch you and you turn and you go, no comment, that's a comment. Yeah. It makes it look, there's an agenda when you say no comment. So I just don't give any comment. And the one, I think I may have told you this before, I had a client that was in jail awaiting trial because he couldn't post both bond and his attorney's fees. So he wisely, I think, hired an attorney. It was me. But he was given a jailhouse interview. The media had contacted him somehow in the jail. And I can't remember how, if it was a friend of mine that was a DO down there, but somehow I found out that this was going to happen. I literally raced down there and literally walked in the room and thank God before the camera started rolling, and basically I put my hand over the camera and said, what are you doing here? Well, he consented to this. I said, I'm his attorney, I didn't consent, leave right now, or I'm gonna call the DO, you know. And they politely left, but they diffused it. But I mean, my client thought that'd be a great idea to tell his story, and it was, and again, part of him craved his story getting out there and craved knowing his friends and family would see him on the 6 o'clock news. There's nothing good that can come of that. And I think a great, vivid way to demonstrate that is our good friend Alec Baldwin, who I'm pretty sure probably has over $10,000 in a bank.
Yes.
Can probably afford to spend whatever the hell he wants to spend, and I'm sure he's spending millions on his criminal defense on this case going on in New Mexico right now.
Millions.
Right up front, when that case was indicted, before they originally dismissed the charges, which I think they shouldn't have, but they did, he gave, and I think it was Anderson Cooper, if I'm not mistaken, he went on TV for like 90 minutes and answered every question that Anderson Cooper wanted to ask him with no attorney present. And I think that's a gigantic sign of a gigantic ego and arrogance and
either that or just the most ignorant thing you could possibly imagine.
It was either so stupid or so arrogant or both. Why? Because I mean, we're already seeing now that they've recharged the case, and Luke Haig, our resident expert on firearms in Arizona, who's just amazing, is the expert that the state of New Mexico is using on that case. To think that you are smarter than everybody that's out there that's going to come after you on this thing is just the height of arrogance and stupidity. And you know, people say, well, you just got a problem with Alec Baldwin. I don't have a problem with Alec Baldwin. I have a problem with rich and famous people not being subjected to the same criminal justice system as the rest of us. And I think that there was a hint that that was going to happen. I'm confident now it won't. We'll see what, I mean, if it does go to trial, I'll certainly abide by whatever the jury says. Yeah. But having read just about everything I can read about what happened in that case, did Alec Baldwin violate all 4 rules of gun safety? Yes, he did. Did somebody die? Yes, they did. Just because there's other people that contributed to the negligent acts doesn't mean that you're immune from that, from prosecution. So, but I guess we're getting back to the jailhouse interview thing. Alec wasn't in jail, but to do that, I think, is always a bad idea. We're not going to use excerpts from that interview to further your defense at your trial, but the prosecution's sure going to cherry pick every single syllable that you said there, and they're going to come back and make him look like an arrogant person who misstated facts. Now he's a liar on top of a negligent guy with a gun, blah, blah, blah. It was a horrendously bad idea. All of my buddies who are lawyers, criminal defense attorneys, we would have lunch and just laugh about that. Alec Baldwin thinks he's smarter than everybody else, so he's going to do this.
Well, and in this case here, I mean, you give an interview, I don't care how long it is. If it's, a 10-minute interview because you're not Alec Baldwin and not crazy famous and Anderson Cooper doesn't care about
by that time, right?
Yeah. Or you got this 90-minute full interview that you basically just went on the record. You went on full record. And now later on, if your attorney goes, man, now we're stuck with whatever it is you said. Because if you change anything, well, now I'm going to, well, wait a minute, you said this before, you're a liar. Were you lying then or are you lying now?
By the way, everybody's heard the Miranda warnings, hopefully only on Law and Order, not in your, not in your living room. But, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Yeah, it can and will. So don't say anything.
Right.
And it's bad enough if you say it to your neighbor and they call the cops and rat you out, but you're saying it to Anderson Cooper with 5 million people watching at home? What are you doing, man?
And now, okay, dialing it back into this case, he said, I didn't mean to shoot him.
Which is about the dumbest thing you could say, right? Because people ask me all the time, because a lot of people are astounded to learn that if you commit an intentional act, that there's no insurance coverage for that. Your homeowners will laugh at you, your auto coverage will laugh at you. If I kill somebody on my way home with my car today, will State Farm be responsible for the damages that person sustained? The answer is yes, unless I did it on purpose.
Right.
If it was my cheating wife and I ran over her with my car, State Farm's not going to pay 1 penny of that because I did it intentionally. Well, guess what? The same thing works with regard to the concept of self-defense. If I intended to shoot somebody because I was in fear for my life, I had no choice but to defend myself by using lethal force. Fantastic. That makes it a very defensible case criminally, but you've now completely forsaken any insurance coverage. So when I explain this to people in my class all the time, a lot of them will say, well, what if I say I didn't mean to shoot it? It was actually negligent. Fantastic. Now there'll be insurance coverage and you'll spend the next 20 years in prison for manslaughter or negligent homicide. So if you'd rather be in prison and not have to worry about your insurance coverage outside of prison, then that's for you. But anytime you say I didn't mean to shoot him, why are we always preaching to you about don't do unsafe modifications to your firearm? Don't lower your trigger pull to 1 pound and carry it on the street. This is not a USPSA match. And the answer is because if the gun goes off and you have to shoot somebody, it leaves you open to the claim that you didn't intend for it to go off, which means it's no longer a defensive use of force. It's manslaughter. And so when you admit, yeah, I shot him, but I didn't mean to, you've just admitted essentially to manslaughter.
There it is.
Shut up.
So he's on the media admitting to manslaughter.
Even if you didn't mean to shoot him, shut up about that.
Because
don't share that.
So again, I see people all the time and they get this idea of, well, I want people to think I'm a good person. I didn't want to kill anybody, so I didn't mean to shoot him. It just went off. But again, in order for it to be a justified use of defensive deadly force, you have to have objective, reasonable evidence for fear of death or great bodily harm, and you had to subjectively
make a choice,
have that fear, and make a choice to end it. And so, but wait a minute, I didn't mean to. I didn't see that fear. I didn't have that.
You just admitted it wasn't self-defense.
You just admitted it wasn't self-defense.
Yeah.
Now, in this particular case out of Mississippi, could the prosecutor allow that big a fumble and not make charges? Seems like he did in this case, or she did in this case.
And again, you're in Jackson, I think it's actually
Jackson,
I think it's pronounced Mississippi, right?
Yeah.
Mississippi. Again, that's not New York City. That's a whole other. We talk about how politics and all these other influences in our society affect what's going to happen in your case, and they do. And again, the bastard needed shooting defense is alive and well in Jackson, Mississippi. And I'm not necessarily saying that this guy did. I mean, apparently he'd been harassing the shop owner. He came in with a knife and attacked the guy. Am I reasonably fear for my life? Yeah. Maybe I didn't mean to shoot him at the exact moment that the gun went off, but I'm not going to admit that.
Yeah.
Was I in fear for my life? Clearly, I was. So shut up. Justice will be served. You don't have to give any statement at all, ever. Shut up. And the facts speak for themselves. We had a video of the guy attacking him with a knife, right?
Right. Well, and I can't imagine giving a statement to the media specifically without your attorney present. Because again, an attorney would have heard that and said, no, I don't want that on camera.
Right.
I want that tape. I want that deleted right now. And
whether
you never said that.
I
would shock,
you sure try, for sure.
You sure try.
But again, what's the risk of giving the statement in the first place? That your idiot client will blurt something like this out.
Your idiot client
and you can't necessarily get it back just by demanding that it's their tape. They have permission to do the interview. I mean, you might get that back, you might not.
You might not. Now, if you've been a fan of active self-protection for years and years, you might remember, somebody might take me to task. We had a couple who had a threat of deadly force, Jillian Wustenberg, who pulled a gun on somebody. And she and her husband, Eric, came on my channel. While they were under charges, they were under indictment for it with their attorneys. And we had a discussion. right? Well, their attorney, it happens to be a friend of mine, two friends of mine. And so we had a good discussion about that. And we had some ground rules in place that, hey, there's some things that they want to talk about what happened in this particular case. And I said, okay, fine. And I also said, so I will edit it and get it ready for publication, and then I'll submit it to you. And if you need to make any changes to that, that's fine to me, because I know kind of what that is. You're not going to get that most places.
No, you won't get that kind of cooperation.
You're not going to get that kind of cooperation from the mass media. So it's a little different circumstance there. Also, I was hired as Eric and Jillian's expert witness. So
you had a vested interest in not ripping into shreds.
I had a vested interest because I'd seen all the discovery at that point, and they said, we'd like to tell our story, and their attorney decided that was a good idea. And I was like, I have just the venue for that. And so we ended up doing that.
I said it's not for me. I would never necessarily say that you're always wrong. That sounds like a case where it might have been a smart move. But that's pretty rare. That's pretty rare that I have somebody I trust implicitly in charge of the media on this thing. So.
Super rare. My rule would be, don't do it. Good God. They're going to call for an advice. Just let it go to voicemail. Don't pick the phone up. I have nothing to say. Refer to my attorney. Please call my attorney. My attorney is answering questions for me, and let the attorney. Some attorneys decide, nope, we're not going to try this in public opinion. We're going to try this in court, and so heck off. Other people want more. Okay, fine. That's something to talk about with your attorney. But
and there is an argument from people who are a lot more media savvy than I am, and younger than I am, and more social media savvy, which would be anybody. And they'll say, we got to get out in front of this thing. We got to give our story. I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is it makes me extremely nervous, and I'd rather lose a positive than gain a negative, and that's kind of how I do it.
So when you give that media statement, right? Especially, okay. So listen, I do this all the time. I'm going to keep people from making huge problems, okay, and stepping on landmines. But the media in general, most people use deadly force. You're not an expert in the law. No. You don't have any understanding of what to say, and your chances of stepping on a landmine are really high.
And with all due respect to John, the case where you did that for your two lawyers and their clients, you know what? You might have thought that something was innocuous and went ahead and edited it and left it, and the attorneys looked at it and said, "Yep, that's the story we want to tell. That seems innocuous. That's good that we want." But then the prosecutors see something that you guys didn't realize they saw, and you just gave them ammo.
It was a risk.
So it's a risk.
It's a risk.
And I'd rather, generally speaking, I'm pretty risk averse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially when people's life is on the line.
On behalf of my life, but especially on behalf of somebody who's entrusting me with their life.
Yeah, and it is risky. And so if that was several years ago, it was 2021 we did that. I think with my experience now as an expert witness, I might go, I don't think this is a great idea.
Let's do an after-action report after you're acquitted.
Let's do it after everything is done, after the acquittal. I ended up actually finally having charges dropped, thankfully. I mean, years of problems, they finally went, okay, we're going to, dismiss charges, after they'd already ruined this couple's life.
A lot of sleepless nights there.
So please hear me. Don't give interviews to the media, okay?
And to the media, or even blurting something out to the cops at the scene. I mean, there certain things are okay to say. Certain things aren't. My fear is I'm not going to be in the mind frame to discern which is good and which is bad when I'm going through that level of trauma.
Shut up.
So shut up. Exactly.
Just shut up. Yep. What you say can and will be used against you. What you don't say can't.
That's right.
So there's a thing. All right. So don't give statements to the media. Shut up. We say it again. And if you're in the ASP Unlimited app, by the time that this one comes out, absolutely. There should be 2 seminars in the ASP Unlimited app, 2 full seminars. One I did for firearms legal protection in May that was what to say after a deadly force incident. And then the second one is that mistakes that get people thrown in prison after a defensive gun use. And this discussion plays prominently in them.
Ties right into that.
And so it's a couple of hours of good stuff there. So watch those, would you? And if you're watching this on YouTube instead, come sub to the ASP Unlimited app, and then you can watch them too.
Watch it.
Tim, appreciate you, man.
Always, buddy. Thanks for having me.